Hi, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. Let me just start off by saying this film is up. And I do not say that lightly, but it does take a while to get there and you may feel a little lost along the way. Perhaps it's baby brain. Let me explain. False Positive follows Lucy and Adrian, a couple who have been trying to fall pregnant for the last few months. But finally, their dreams are answered when Adrian pulls some strings and gets the highly sought after fertility doctor, Dr. Hindle, to help them with their pregnancy. But something about Dr. Hindle is off from the start, and his clinic seems too good to be true, and Lucy, well, she isn't buying it. The film stars Alana Glazer, Justin Theroux, and Pierce Brosnan. From the trailer and the blurb, we're expecting a very familiar story, perhaps one like Rosemary's Baby, I'm just gonna say it. But I held on to the hope that there could be more. I was hoping that the film would take on a different vibe, as it's directed, written, and produced by John Lee. He is the co-creator, director, producer, and writer for various episodes of Wundershausen and Xavier Renegade Angel. Xavier is one of my favorite comedy series of all time. It's a surrealist black comedy about a humanoid spiritual seeker. It's one of the most bizarre shows you'll ever see. So because False Positive seemed very predictable from the blurb and the trailer, I was hoping there would be a John Lee spin on it, which he does, but for False Positive, it seems a little too late. The film is incredibly slow moving, and it isn't until the 40-minute mark that the film moves from shady drama to thriller territory. I'm gonna tell it to you straight, unfortunately, this film is extremely predictable. And I know all of my viewers who are aware, especially with the horror subgenre of pregnancy, will see what's gonna happen a mile away. But it doesn't mean they didn't throw any John Lee magic in, because just wait.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Before we talk about that, there is another aspect of this film that affected my viewing experience. It's the pacing and the flow. The film relies on the typical protagonist dilemma: is this really all happening, or am I just crazy? And in this case, they use the idea of having baby brain. Even though the setup is slow, it is intriguing, and as expected, Alana Glazer's charm warms you up instantly and you're on her side. And you're excited even though you feel like it could be predictable to go along on the journey with her. But it's only when things start to warm up that the film seems scrambled. It's a messy ride where pockets of time and strange aspects are focused on, while we're missing the meat of the actual concept. The thing is, I'm all for enjoying just a simple, straightforward horror or thriller film. I have a love of stalker films, which I've spoken about several times on this channel, and I do find films that are very predictable to be satisfying. Sometimes you just want to scratch that itch and watch a simple story, and nothing is wrong with that. And the fun thing about False Positive is, even though it is predictable, it takes certain elements of films that are done that are similar to it and brings it into 2021. The film focuses on the idea of pregnancies via IVF and talks about millennial women balancing their careers and children. It also has a hint of satire humor, playing on some lighter elements like a Cartier bracelet and someone's career being a food stylist. So if it had stayed on a predictable path without trying to lead us astray by focusing on strange moments or aspects, it would still be, again, a predictable but satisfying modern film. Instead, baby brain aspects make it hard to understand the connection between Lucy's feelings and her interaction with her partner and the outside world. After the 40-minute mark, the film almost turns into this strange montage of scenes that have no flow and consistency to them, that feels like they're just there to throw you off track. And then we are hit in the face. And I literally had to pick up my jaw from off the ground towards the end of the film. I know I don't normally go into this much detail. I promise you'll never see what's coming, so don't worry. But I was completely and utterly shocked by the way this film ended. So that's where John Lee really sprinkled some of that extra John Lee. I don't want to say magic because I don't know if it's a positive thing. The film has a climax that I believe people will be talking about for the rest of the year. It pushes many boundaries and crosses many lines that films will never touch. And it's perhaps the only part of this film that is completely unpredictable and not given away by a throwaway line. The ending is just one of the bizarre elements of the film that just throws it off from being a cohesive story. But although random, they do have grounding in the theme of the story, and it would have been nicer just to have focused on these bigger elements that made the story so different. So instead of feeling like these were throwing off this predictable film, focusing on those elements and turning it into an original concept. What we have right now is a film that plays very predictable with all of these different elements thrown in. What we should have done is just focus on all of those elements, turn them into the main storyline, and take away everything else. I know I'm talking in circles, but it is because this film is so scrambled. It is highly predictable and tries to throw you off with these shocking elements. The cinematography for this film was slick and beautiful with rich colors, and I'd like to take some time to talk about some of the set design that really stood out, particularly the women's Hindle Center. I felt like I was stepping into a Candy Striper, Stepford Wives type situation. It was a bizarre touch that really throws you off, very uncanny. It's a juxtaposition from their modern home and their modern offices into this sterile, almost fantasy land. I also enjoyed some of the metaphorical imagery, including the reflection scene in the bathroom. But like most things in this film, it wasn't cohesive during the whole story. So although some parts seemed whimsical or even abstract, it only does so for a small moment, leaving the film feeling overall disjointed. Overall, False Positive is a clunky ride that tries to distract its audience with interesting and disturbing elements. The film loses tension by focusing on the most predictable elements while under-explaining the interesting and unique. It's like they chose to focus on the mundane and predictable, but it attempts to win over audiences with its climactic ending. It's one of those films that plays on your perspective of what is reality and what's not. But is it too little too late? I can't wait to hear what everyone says about this film. I am not joking when I said I was utterly shocked. I watch a lot of disturbing stuff and I was not expecting this from this very predictable film. Just some very shocking scenes. But was it enough to save the film? For me personally, no. I am a fan of Alana and I was very bummed out by this. I wanted to love this film, especially loving her as an actress and seeing her come into horror. I was very excited, but the film was so deeply predictable, which isn't a problem, but the fact that they tried to kind of mislead you with different elements, it just fell apart for me quite quickly, and the shocking ending couldn't save it. In fact, I think this is going to offend a lot of people. I did find the film highly intriguing, and I think it's just an editing issue, if anything. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, which is still an average, smack bang in the middle score. I just can't wait to hear what you guys think, to be honest. Originality, another one that's really hard to grade because on one hand, it has some very original and unique aspects. On the other hand, it is so predictable. So I'm giving it a 5. And for scare, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. It depends if you're squeamish with this kind of stuff. Technically, this is kind of body horror in a way. It's a lot to do with a woman's body and fears of pregnancy and a lot of that kind of stuff. So if you're sensitive to that, you might find it a little bit more terrifying. I honestly cannot wait to hear what everyone else thinks about this film. I was lucky enough to see it a little bit early and just so shocked. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before I go, I do want to talk to you about mental health and horror. This is a documentary that will feature interviews from horror icons, fans, film critics, historians, directors, producers, and writers, as well as professionals from the mental health world. Jonathan Barkin, who is a peer of mine, who I really respect and has been so lovely to me. He is writing and directing this documentary and I'm so proud of him. I'm sure if you've been around in the horror community for a while, you'll know that there's always been a link between mental health and horror, and we continue to analyze that, especially I do, and I'm just so glad that this conversation is being turned into a documentary. The documentary is going to be funded by Kickstarter, so if you want to back this documentary, I'll leave the link down below in the down bar. Check it out, and there's so much information there about what exactly they're going to do. There's some really cool rewards for backing this film. You can get your name in the credits, you can get posters, you can even get a limited edition pin. Full transparency, I am an affiliate and I'm working to help them promote it. but I'm also backing the project myself because I think it's so cool and I'm so proud that they're putting it together. I think it's going to be amazing. Anyway, check out the link because it has all the information. I just wanted you guys to know. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Can't wait to hear what you think about False Positive. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.